From the grindhouse to the yard house, it's showtime. My name is Jason. I am the last manager of the last video store in the universe. Sunny, tropical Akron, Ohio, binge movies, home video. It is the nexus of the universe, but the movie theater is the nexus of my universe when I'm not here whipping lowly paid teenagers to do more than their wages call for them to do long past the hours that they've been scheduled to work. I go to the movies. I go to the theater. I watch the movies. I come and I talk to you about them. Because that's what grown adults do in 2024. Especially when they're contractually obligated to do it by the good folks at the Buena Vista Media Corporation. Okay. Beetlejuice, folks. I'm going to get right into it. Michael Keaton is good as Beetlejuice. He's not as good as he was in the original movie. Don't let anybody lie to you, but he's good. I don't think it's for a lack of trying. I don't think it's for a lack of effort on his part. I think the material is not quite as good, and the deployment of Beetlejuice, how the character is deployed, is not as good. I'm going to be spoiler-free on this and go into spoilers over at patreon.com/binge movies. If you want instantaneous reactions like this one to be even more instantaneous, sometimes extended, sometimes with video, sometimes with spoilers. Just depends on what I could do and when I can do it. Go to patreon.com/binge movies. Okay. Beetlejuice. I'm going to give you the setup, light spoilers just to give you the premise of the movie. And then I'll get into no spoilers, what works, what doesn't work. And then I will give you my final rating and recommendation. Here we go. Premise. That's your warning. Charles Deetz is dead. Lydia and the family has to get back together in Winterhurst, which apparently is the name of the town. I think that's right. I don't know that I ever knew that. And to bury him, and they are Lydia and Delia have made peace with each other through the years. Delia is a softened, but not she's not herself. She's just a slightly more understanding version of herself. And then where Lydia is Lydia has become a Zach Baggins type cable TV, psychic, whatever. I don't think that gets explored for enough comedic effect. I think it's a stronger comedic idea than is utilized in this particular movie. I would have loved to have seen that character at least on one ghost chase of some kind. But she's kind of flaky, flighty, still kind of a weirdo, but more so in a codependent, sad way, which is an energy that Winona Ryder has really had after a certain point in her career. Okay, so there's that. She has a daughter named Astrid, who's played by Jenna Ortega, who's not playing Wednesday. She's playing a little bit different. She's a disaffected youth, and she's disaffected from her mom's, what she deems to be supernatural bullshit. And she has all the reason in the world, and I won't go into that as to why, but to not believe that Lydia is connected to the spirit world. And through a series of circumstances that I will not get into, Beetlejuice returns. That's how I would put it. The biggest problem with the movie is there's an original screenplay somewhere in here that feels like it was probably strong enough from a story perspective to be its own true Beetlejuice sequel, and makes sense and is logical, but it feels like there's 36 years of good, interesting, goofy, goopy, gory, funky, gross out ideas from all the previous incarnations about what the Beetlejuice sequel would be. You know, a crime caper, somebody trying to murder Beetlejuice in the underworld, and Beetlejuice and his ex-wife, and all this sort of stuff. These are all ideas I've heard thrown around about the Beetlejuice sequel since like the 90s. And they show up here. And it just feels like there was maybe an emotional attachment to some of these past developmental ideas. And they went, oh, what if we took this and took this and took this, and we can make it fit into this original fun little story that we have. And I think that what happened was, well, a lot of those ideas work as individual gags, or they work as remnants of a different story that maybe a different direction they were going to go into. They don't exactly fit from a story perspective into the bulk of what this movie is. And so overall, I think this movie is messier and lesser than it would have been had they just stuck to it. Now, I say this, a little bit of a caveat. I've spent a lot of time talking about legacy sequels and thinking about them and thinking about how to write them differently than we typically get them. I have come to a hard conclusion, which is that the reason why they write these movies the way that they do oftentimes is that if they were to more closely adhere to more rudimentary, fundamental, whatever the term you want to use, more sure methods of storytelling and story beats and how to lay story beats out, what they would find, and probably what they do find when they write better versions of these screenplays, is, oh shit, if I write a faithful sequel that is in continuity with what came before it and make logical plot progression decisions, I have just remade the first movie. Because at some point, someone in the past, for a lot of these classic films, had good judgment and skill and discipline in the storytelling department. And they were like, Beetlejuice should show up at the 45-minute mark. We don't want to overuse him. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. There was restraint that was shown. Some of those restraints were limitations of technology at the time. So if you remove those limitations and have the burden of having to feel original, one of the ways that you can do it is shake up the order in which plot points happen. Well, normally this would happen in the first act, but if we do that in the first act, then that's going to feel too much like the original, so let's put it in the second act. Well, if we put that in the second act, now I got to move that to the first act and this to the third act. And that's why so many of these legacy sequels, soft reboots, feel very jumbled. They feel like they've had a lot of fingerprints on them. It's a combination of two or three things. It's scouring previous ideas and screenplays that never got fully developed and picking and choosing the best ideas, or what you think are the best ideas out of them, and stitching them together, like Monica Bellucci, and also trying to shift the story structure around so it doesn't feel so samey. The good thing that benefits Beetlejuice is that it is not obsessed with, and look at that, remember that from the original movie? There is some of that, but very minimal, and the stuff that they do bring back feels like they'd have to. It's just true to the world. We see the waiting room for the afterlife. If it looked different, why would it look different? Nothing changes in that world. That world's been the same for millennia. That's the joke of the first movie, right? So that makes sense. So that that it doesn't bother me in this world in particular. The world of Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice should pretty much be the same. I don't think that Beetlejuice has a reprise of any of the gags from the first movie. He doesn't say it's showtime or none of the stuff that he's zeitgeist for. None of the iconography of Beetlejuice is there, other than the suit and a couple other things. The makeup looks better in person than it does in the trailers. I'm still not a fan of how they've chosen to light the afterworld in this movie, in particular like Beetlejuice's office, where they really lay on with what feels like LED green. I don't really like that. But other than that, stylistically, it looks good. It feels like the most energetic, fun Tim Burton movie in 35 years. It feels like they do a good enough job approximating the energy and creativity of a young, chip on his shoulder, fuck you, Tim Burton. So, The Monica Bellucci subplot feels like it could have been way better integrated into the story, and it makes sense. There's a version of the story that they are telling where thematically she fits in perfectly. I'll talk more about that over on patreon.com/spoilers. But I think all that gets lost in the edit, and I think a lot of that gets lost in shoehorning in other ideas. The cast is great. The crew, it's well produced. It looks good. I don't know. There's more I could say about it, but I get into spoiler territory. I don't want to do that. If I had to give this thing a score out of 10, I'd give it a 7, 7.5, somewhere in that range. I would recommend it. The Justin Theroux character, your mileage is going to vary. I didn't find any of the stuff that he did funny. And so when you have these long, awkward scenes with him that just go on and on and on, other people laughed. So it's just a personal taste thing about me. Other people in the theater were laughing. The biggest laugh obviously came from Delia and Beetlejuice. They got the biggest laughs. Without getting into some kind of spoilers, the biggest laughs. Again, I think the central story that they were telling that maybe is a little bit more focused on Jenna Ortega. She's not given a ton to do here. She's not a real, and that's the other problem is when you have like, now we're into multiple generations and you start opening up to questioning things and answering things we didn't have questions about. It gets messy. All in all, though, I had a fun time with the movies. It was a fun ride. I enjoyed it. I don't think this one's going to be divisive, but it is. I could see it landing in a middling sort of place where, for some people, this is going to be a 3-star movie, and for other people, this is going to be or maybe 2.5-star movie versus like a 4-star movie. Like, I think it's going to fall in that range. For me, I put it about, I'd say maybe like a 7.5, and enjoyed it. I would recommend it, but with problems. So, okay, have you seen it? Are you going to see it? What are you worried about? No spoilers. Comment below. Till next time. Appreciate you. Binge on.